Welcome back to Project Happy Home. For those of you who are new here, I'm Tanya, a doctor, lawyer, turned homeschool mom of 3 kids ages 13, 10, and 8. If you are interested in videos about secular homeschooling, raising a child with ADHD, and living a more essentialist lifestyle, you have come to the right place, so be sure to hit that subscribe button down below the video. I post rather irregularly, so if you don't want to miss any new videos, hit that notification bell as well, and you will be alerted whenever I post a new video. If you want to follow along with our day-to-day homeschooling existence, career, whatever you want to call it, you should follow me on Instagram, where I post much more regularly than on YouTube. I share a lot of homeschooling curricula there, homeschooling games, trips that we've taken, experiences I'm having parenting my children, random sales that I find, etc. So it can be useful to you. In today's video, I'm going to be going through a flip through of Teach Your Child to Read in 100 Easy Lessons by Engelman. If you have not used this curricula yet or heard of it, I'm sure you will. You will hear people who love it and swear that it's the best thing up and down for teaching children to read, and you will have the opposite experience also of people who say it was just an epic fail for them. I have actually had both experiences with my children. I'm going to turn on a light so that this is a little brighter when we go through it, but right now the glossiness of the cover creates a huge glare. It says that this remarkable step-by-step program teaches your child to read in just 20 minutes a day. I will agree that I think the average lesson in here takes 20 minutes or less. However, depending upon how your child is learning and how they learn to read, you will have different experiences with this book. For example, my eldest, I didn't have to use any phonics programs because he was just a really naturally early reader. He taught himself to read truly by the time he was 4. My middle child was much more typical as we started to learn from this book around the age of 4 or 5. She went through it. By the time she got to around lesson 75 or so, which is around here-ish, she was doing really well, and she kind of knew how to read already, and we moved on, and I don't know that we ever actually finished the book. She just knew how to read at this point. My last child, however, she actually managed to get through the whole book without too much trouble. It took her a little bit longer to get through it. However, she did not know how to read by the time we got to lesson 100. And when I say that she did not know how to read, I mean that she could read, here you go with the light, she could read this type of page slowly, rather slowly, but she did not have any degree of fluency. She could not jump from something like this to just a book that looked exactly like this. And for me, that was a wake-up call that she really did need explicit phonics instruction that was beyond this book. I think this book does a good job of going through the steps of reading with, the science of reading, in the sense of they definitely teach sounds over sight recognition, etc. However, it really wasn't enough. It wasn't pieced apart enough in terms of phonetics for my daughter to understand. So very different experiences with my 2 children. That being said, you can often pick up this book for $3, $4, $5, $10 on Facebook Marketplace or in a thrift store, and it's worth checking out. I think that if you have a child who does take to this book, it is a very simple and straightforward way of teaching reading. If your child needs more, then you may want to supplement or add something else in at the end. Personally, reflecting upon my experience with my last child, I wish I had taken her slowness with this a little bit more seriously and introduced explicit phonics programs such as Logic of English, Foundations A, Foundations B, etc. earlier, because she really did experience a lot of success with that. That being said, I'm just going to go through and show you what's in here so that you can evaluate for yourself whether this might be a book that would appeal to you as well. When you are introduced to the book, it opens up with a parent's guide, and it really does talk about the science of reading. It's an effective sequence for reading, which shows you step by step building on skills with different types of sounds, different types of words, decoding skills, etc. The book is very specific in how many words it focuses on at a time, the order of sounds introduced, etc. The book also uses a particular type of print in this type of instruction, where there's certain words that will always be shown with their long vowels indicated, etc., and certain consonant blends that'll be shown squished together so the child can kind of recognize them in the word more easily, especially at the beginning. And as the book progresses, those types of little clues go away. So here you have a pronunciation guide. It's very clear to show you exactly like what they want you to say when you see an S like this, an A like this, an E with a long vowel sign, etc., all the way down. So you'll see here, for example, when you have the WH, it's sort of smushed together so they can remember that it's the W sound. The book also has a lot of sounding out words emphasized. So you will have a word like me, for example, and it instructs you to start with your finger here and for the child to stop on each dot for about a second. So you have the M, and then you have the E sound, and then you move quickly along next and you go me. So that type of instruction is very clearly taught. The book emphasizes that you're not supposed to skip through this book. You are supposed to start at the beginning and progress through. If the first few lessons are easy for your child, you can go in order through several of them in one lesson session, but they do not want you to skip through because the actual repetition of the words that they use and the sounds that they use is very intentional in this book. There are other activities that they mention here, like writing stories from pictures, writing words from dictation, etc., starting around 1/3 of the way through the book. They design the lessons to typically take from 15 to 20 minutes, and if it takes longer, that's fine. If it takes a little bit shorter, that's fine. You could perhaps add in another lesson to hit that 15-20 minute mark. They also have instructions on how to actually write the letters, so like start at the top for S, start with a backwards S and add a ball, etc. So for the A, I never used these particular instructions. I just sort of went with their regular handwriting curriculum and did that, but this does incorporate it. So again, given that you can find this book so inexpensively, especially used, it's a decent program to attempt with your child before you try more expensive programs. And that's just my 2 cents on this. So introducing the program, it gives you a particular script on what to say. The program is scripted throughout and it is color coded. So everything in red is for the adult to say. And all the black instructions here are for what to do. So for example, right here in lesson 1, you have point to M. I'm going to touch under this sound and say the sound. And then it tells you what to do. Touch the first ball of the arrow, move quickly to the second ball. Hold 2 seconds. And release the point. And then it's your turn to say the sound when I touch under it. You touch the first ball, you get ready, and then you move your hand while the child says the sound. It gives you instructions of what to do if the child doesn't do what is expected here. So if they say the wrong sound or is not responding, they tell you what to say. So if you are feeling insecure about teaching reading, this is a great book to sort of get you over that hump and to ease you into how to do instruction. Honestly, I felt pretty comfortable by the second lesson or third lesson, and I could just sort of follow their structure very clearly. You'll notice it goes pretty slow. So that first A, you just have the M sound and the S sound, and you have handwriting that, both of those letters. And then you go on, you review those 2 sounds. By the third lesson, you've added an A sound. Task 6 on the third lesson gets you to the word am. And you go through that, and it just keeps going and building on each other. The lessons start to get a little longer as you go on. So for example, lesson 5 is about 3 pages and a little bit, and you just move on. But as you can see, the structure stays very much the same. There are not that many pictures until you get to the stories. So for the first, I would say 20 or so lessons, you really just have instruction and letters, etc. I believe lesson 13 introduces the first story, where you have a little sentence to read, and that is, see me eat. So when you do the stories, it gives you the script again. This is a story. I'll touch the words in the story. This is the first word. This is the next word. This is the next word. Your turn to touch the ball for the first word. So it really teaches them, like, these letters grouped together is a word. And then you sound it out. So E, and then you say it quickly. Say it fast. See. So what word is it? You read the word see. And it goes over and over in that way. So they get this confidence about what they're reading but very slowly. So you're all the way at lesson 13 before you get to see me eat. You also have a little picture comprehension section once the stories have started. So you just read see me eat. You point to the picture. This picture shows what you read. The story says see me eat. So what do you think the boy in this picture is saying? What is the boy doing? Do you think he likes to eat? What do you see in the picture that shows he likes to eat? What is he eating? What do you like to eat? For all the lessons, it tells you to cover the picture until you're ready to begin the picture comprehension section. So we actually would just use like a index card or something that we moved along as a bookmark that we would hold over that. And that is another way that this book is a little bit more modern than the old-fashioned, ways of teaching reading in schools, because it really does want the child to look at the words first and not really look at pictures for context clues to guess words. As you go on, it gets a little bit more complicated again. You're starting to have a little bit longer lessons, more words to read. You'll notice they have these little indicator marks for the long vowels, etc. The letters that are silent in a way are smaller in here. So it's a little bit different, again, than you might see in Foundations of English, etc. For my middle child, this was not a problem. Incorporating this idea of the E and the A and the R here being ear, but the EA saying the E sound just sort of came naturally to her. For my last child, however, this proved to be a little confusing without a concurrent phonics system. So that's what I mean when I say I wish I had started something like Foundations or Rooted in Language earlier. I'm just going to quickly flip through now so you can see kind of how this progresses. You get to page 100-ish and you're around 1/4 of the way through the lessons. By the time you're midway through the program at lesson 50, you're starting to read stories like this. So definitely you have made a good deal of progress. By the time you get to around lesson 58 and 60, you're reading twice as long sessions. So that's a big jump in just 10 lessons. And then by the time you get to lesson 70, you'll notice that the text is getting smaller and they're reading bigger stories here. As you go through these stories and they introduce different things like quotations, they do explain that in the text as to what a quotation mark is, etc. I liked how students were able to see, different types of punctuation, different types of quotations. I didn't like how, if you'll notice in this story, to keep the student focused on the shapes of the letters and the sounds that they make, they haven't actually switched over to appropriate capitalization. And that kind of irritated me personally, but I can understand the logic behind this. Another thing that happens around 3/4 of the way through the program, around lesson 74, is they start introducing different fonts here. So you've had the letters presented in one particular way all throughout the stories, and now they switch to a more classical, serif font here. So they have a different look to each of these letters. And the idea is at this point, students should be comfortable enough with the shapes of the letters that the sounds are still no issue, even with the font change. By around lesson 78, you've got a page-long story here. My third child definitely started to have reluctance to do the program by the time she got here, because the program had moved at a speed at which she could still read these individual words pretty well, but putting this many of them together in a row was a little bit daunting for her. On the other hand, my middle child, by the time she got to around here, could read this fluently, really had no issues with reading, and could sound out several words. And I sort of stopped the program at that point because she really was ready to start reading just chapter books. So again, capital letters are not introduced until around lesson 82. So about 4/5 of the way through the program, or 80% of the way through the program. And when that happens, they immediately start capitalizing the stories appropriately. The stepwise progression of skills is very deliberate in this curriculum, which I really appreciated. You're not dealing with a curriculum that isn't doing things for a particular reason. They explain the logic of all of these decisions at the beginning of the book. So for bang for your buck, I don't think you can really beat Teach Your Child to Read in 100 Easy Lessons. I think it's worth picking up used from Facebook Marketplace or from a thrift store, etc., because you can easily get this for $5, $10 at most. And if you notice by the time that your child's about 1/4 of the way through the book or 1/3 of the way through the book that they understand how to read individual words but are still not putting them together fluently, that might be a sign to you that you want to try a more dedicated phonics program. Two of the ones that I've tried that I have had great success with are Foundations and Rooted in Language. So those are two options that you should check out. I'll link them in the description box down below. I hope this little review and flip through was helpful to you. I will be trying to share a lot of these early education things as I move them out of my house. So in the next few months, you'll be seeing a lot of reading curricula, a lot of kindergarten, first grade, second grade type of materials reviewed here. Let me know if there's anything in particular you'd like to see. If I have it, I'm happy to move it up in the queue and flip through it earlier for you. If you wanted to see other curricula designed for this age group, whether it be in math, science, language arts, etc., be sure to check out my kindergarten, first grade, second grade playlist. I have the videos I've made organized by grade level as well as subject area. So for example, if you want to see just language arts materials for any grade, you should check out the language arts playlist. If you want to see all the things that I have used or reviewed for the first grade level, go ahead and check out the first grade playlist, etc. If you would like to purchase this book new, I have it linked in my Amazon storefront, and the individual link to Amazon is also in the description box down below the video. Whenever you use my links, I really do appreciate it. It helps encourage me to keep making videos for you, and it just pays for the maintenance of this channel, which is really nice. As always, you guys, thank you so much for spending some of your valuable time with me, and I wish you the very best day.